Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide Jason. Happy New Year, and let's start this year with Ajatar. Now, when you think snake monster, your mind tends to go south to warmer climates. You are probably thinking places like Egypt and probably the Amazon. But what about Finland? A place which is known for deep and cold winters. Yet deep in the Finnish forests, you may come across a rather odd being, Ajatar, also called Ajatara and Ajatar. She is said to be the representation of the duality of the forest, both the good and the bad, and this has resulted in there being two very wildly different versions. This is actually to the point where you could consider them two different mythical creatures. One version refers to Ajatar as an evil spirit of the forest. In this form, she is either referred to as a dragon, or just as commonly, a mixture of a snake and a woman. The green hair on her head is kept in a braid that reaches down to her heels, and her breasts hang down to her knees. Often you'll find leaves in her hair. Her breath is filled with pestilence and disease. Even being near her is potentially bad for your health, though she is said to have a single weakness, that is to the sun's light, which drains her power. Only then can she be defeated. Most stories speak of her causing thunderstorms and wildfires. She is a source of harm and destruction. She will lead travelers astray and even kill them. If she finds you sleeping in the woods, she may lay down beside you and bless you with horrible nightmares. Often, villages would rely on prayer to forest guardians to protect them and push the snake woman away from them. Though there is a story about her. A young boy heard about her out in the forests, and out of curiosity, ventured forth into the woods to meet her. He brought with him some snacks, mostly berries and bread. And when he found the dragon woman, he shared his meager supplies, and even played his flute for her. Amused by the boy's curiosity, Ajatar didn't harm the boy, and they would be friends throughout the summer. But as winter approached, the dragon noticed that her pestilent magic was starting to affect the boy. So to protect him from her, she fled the area. And this leads to the other side of her story that you will find. The one which is harder to find, and I hadn't even heard of until starting to research this video. One where she is viewed as a forest protector, a more benevolent spirit. One which helps travelers and those lost in the woods. Though she is still dangerous. In one tale, a hunter entered the area around her sacred grove and damaged trees and bushes maliciously. And seeing this, she attacked and slew the man. In this form, she is generally said to be mostly human, but still with long hair, often filled with branches and leaves. As I said, she represents the duality of the forest. They are dangerous, not just the beasts, but the weather. When out in the wilds, you need to pay attention and come prepared. But when understood and treated with respect, nature can be an aid. Though most stories do describe her more violent and disastrous version. Part of the shift is potentially tied to the rise of Christianity in the area, though we do see creatures similar to each side of her personality. On the nicer side, you could compare her to a dryad or a nymph. A bit more vengeful, but not terribly evil. On the more aggressive side, she is similar to the Vriever of French mythology, though the Vriever is usually not shown to have legs when in the mixed form of woman and dragon, though some versions are pure dragon with her too. And this brings up the second option for the strange division in her story. There is a high chance that she comes from the mixing of multiple creatures, taking aspects of each to create the final project. It is also possible that she was influenced by other myths. We see serpents with corrosive breath in Norse mythology with Jormungandr, and also with a basilisk or cockatrice. You could also compare her to Lamia and Medusa, who were also snake women in European mythology. There are actually a lot of snake monsters in European mythology, and more in the rest of the world. Well, snakes are a common fear in humans, so it is to be expected when it comes to mythology that humans would make monsters out of them. Makes me wonder which is the oldest of these snake monsters. Perhaps those in Egyptian mythology such as Apophis and Nehebeka, or the snake monster Masmahu in Sumerian mythology. Her biology is a bit more complicated. She's often said to be a dragon, but other descriptions say she has hair and boobs. Well, the most likely explanation is she is a shapeshifter, and I'm not sure which form is her true one. Potentially, what form she will take will depend on how your interactions are going. The more monstrous ones are probably when she is against you. Though we can assume that she does have knees and ankles, since those are mentioned as measurements with her other features. Though it is questionable. The one thing we do know is her breath of pestilence. Now, I cannot attest exactly what this would be. A breath of insects? Just a massive germ cloud? Is it a sneeze? No, a more likely option would be a smoke which can damage the lungs. Is she some form of poison or acid dragon? So if Ajatar attacks you, what should you do? Well, the first issue is figuring out which version you are dealing with. Yes, both the good and evil variants are a possibility. But we have the legged snake woman variant, and the full-on dragon being the ones you're most likely going to face. If the snake woman form, she'll probably be closer to you in size, though it is possible that her strength will be greater. In this form, she's probably covered in scales, which may offer a bit more protection than just skin, but a sword or spear should be able to pierce her hide, assuming that it isn't really dragon hide. She is usually mentioned having wings, though not always in this form, and that could change. So assume that you might have an aerial fight. If so, bring a bow and arrow, and take your time with aiming. Honestly, this might be the best option, though she may not give you time. By far, her most deadly attack will be her breath attack. If I am correct on how it works, cover your face and keep your distance. Bring cover and be ready to run. Potentially, spells to cleanse poison and disease might be invaluable here. If not, cold spells might cause the attack to condense, and cause the essence of pestilence to fall to the ground. A rain or maybe a fog spell could achieve the same thing. When it comes to spells, this can get interesting. With most reptilian foes, I would recommend cold spells, and it might work here. Though, if she is a dragon, she will likely be resistant. Still, worth a try in a pinch. Though there was one spell I would want to try, and that is the very simple light spell. It is said that she will lose her powers under the light of the sun, so let's replicate that. In theory, that should work. Your best odds here is by attacking from stealth at first light. It would be best to avoid this fight. And for the humanoid form, I would say a 4 of 10 for difficulty, but the dragon form changes all of that. In this form, she's likely much larger and easily stronger than you. Now an arrow may not have the penetrating power to reach her vital organs. I would recommend getting artillery for this form. And in this form, we can add in other forms of magic. She's said to create wildfires and thunderstorms. So fire, definitely. Then we could add in wind, rain, and lightning perhaps. None are good to be hit by. Honestly, I think the fire and pestilent breath are bad enough. Here I'm going to bump Ajatar's difficulty to a 6 of 10. It'll be much more difficult. Now, there is one option which isn't mentioned precisely in all the myths, but our good version is said to be the guardian of the forests, which means there is a possibility that she could have some forms of nature magic to bolster her powers. This may include plant and animal control, but I am pretty sure that she will not have any form of healing magic due to she didn't use it to heal the human boy that befriended her. So there is that deficit in her powers at least. Mind you, that isn't much with all of her other offensive options. Regardless, I'd rather avoid this fight. Now, you don't have to fight Ajatar. In the good version, she is only hostile to those that damage the forest. So if you don't damage the forest, she has no reason to go after you. Be good, don't destroy trees, don't start fires, and don't throw trash out. And there won't be any problems. If you can befriend her, you either get a Snake Woman Forest Guardian or a Forest Guardian Dragon. Neither is something I would complain about having. Though, if you spend too much time near her, you could suffer from her pestilent breath. So be careful and pace your interactions. But what happens if it is the aggressive version? Well, you won't be friends with her. So, you'll need to slay her, and due to her breath, it might be difficult to harvest the remains. You'll need to cleanse the pestilence and disease from the area before you get started. If you can do that, you get a couple of important options. 1. This is often said to be a dragon, which means dragon scales and hide. You could make sturdy armor out of that. And you also get bones, which could be made into weapons and other tools. Of course, you could also get the meat. I'm not sure how edible dragon meat is. Doubly so if it is a poison dragon. So be careful and trust a talented chef to prepare the meat. Yet there is one more thing. This is a monster which has likely been a plague upon the locals, and I am positive that they would likely reward you in lavish praise. That has to be worth something. Ajatar has varied appearances and interpretations which have arisen across history and mythology. She is a dragon or a snake woman, depending on who you ask. She can either be the bringer of pestilence and disease, or guardian of the forest. Her myth spans good and evil, destroyer and protector. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Until next time, I'll see you on the roads.